Hey guys, it's Rick from Rick's Bricks. I'm here today with another video in my vlog series where I share tips and tricks and some advice for other BrickLink and Brick Owl sellers from over 17 years of running a store on both platforms. As promised, today I would like to show you how I part out sets and some of the more powerful features of the BrickSeller software to help parting out sets more efficient. I know I talked a little bit about it when I give a store tour, but I use these two tables and mostly this computer, but also the computer on my handy-dandy cart to put away sets. And basically the technique that I've used for many years, I came up with, is that first of all I part out or I empty out all the bags of the sets into one or more of these trays. Usually I don't need to use all of them. Mostly this table is suffice, but for the larger sets I have a few more over there. And then what I do is I bring up the set on BrickSeller and walk through it part by part, and I pick out parts for up to 20 cups, because 20 cups fit in one of these cardboard trays, which is really just a banker box top. And then I take those 20 cups and take them over to the handy dandy cart and put the 20 cups away, and then I come back, fill up 20 more, go back, put them away, and I do that back and forth until the entire set is fully put away. Today we're going to be parting out 4 of this recycling truck, the City Set 60386. Usually I part out 4 sets at a time, or 4 of a quantity of 4 of a given set. If I part out the really large sets that are worth a couple $100 or more and got several thousand pieces in it, I may only buy 2. But most of the time, as you can see, my rule of thumb is I buy 4 of each set that I want to part out. That just gives me I've always thought that parting out 1 set at a time is definitely not worth your time. If you're going to part out 1, you should part out several. But at 4, it kind of keeps the piles of parts in these trays to a workable amount. Obviously, there are some sets where depending on how repetitive the part is, you still get a lot of certain parts. But what I'm going to show you today is kind of how I use the BrickSeller software, and in this case I'm going to be parting out using a feature of BrickSeller that allows you to part out from largest part to smallest part. And the reason why, when you're doing some of the larger sets, this one's not really that big, but I'm sure it's just by the look of it, it's got some larger parts, and I'm sure it goes down to a lot of very small parts. And I know that a lot of you that part out sets, some of you do it, you pre-sort everything by color and put it in cups and put it away. I don't know, this is a technique that I've used for years. It has worked out really well for me, and I can get a set put away start to finish. The other thing with using the BrickSeller software is that you can put away not only parts that you already have lots in your inventory, but also any new parts that you've never had before, all in one path. I know I've seen people use Brickstore and other software, and it seems like you have to put everything away first that you've got lots for, and then you have to make another pass through and get pricing for and assign inventory locations to lots that you'd already have in inventory. But with BrickSeller, you do that all at one time. So so those two kind of features alone, I think, are some of the more unique things with BrickSeller. And so the way they the largest to smaller part thing works is that obviously you don't want to go strictly by part size. You know, the only data we have out of BrickLink that we can use for that is the weight of the part, and you know, who knows exactly how accurate that is all the time. Probably not great, but it's the only thing we really have to go by. Going by size would be much more complicated because some parts just don't have a size associated with them. So I chose to do it using the weight data that we have available, and then rather than just go sort them in the order of largest to smallest weight, that would then not go in sequence of the way I have the drawers and the aisles labeled in my warehouse, going down one aisle, back up the other, and then down the second aisle and back up. So as a compromise, what I came up with is, instead of just doing one straight pass through, going largest to smallest, I go with 6 different weight ranges, and so I will have to go through the warehouse path 6 times, but it's the kind of compromise I came up with without basically sorting it by pure highest to lowest weight for each part, and having to run all over the place back and forth putting parts away. And the way that works in BrickSeller is, over on the Options tab, there is this part out weight ranges. And when you first register for BrickSeller, you will get these built-in weight ranges as a default. So as you can see here, the largest one starts at 3 grams and up. The next one goes to 1.5 to 2.999, and then the next one 1.0 to 2.9, and so on until you get down to 0 through just less than half a gram. So those are the 6 weight ranges that I use to present the items. So it'll give me everything in this weight range, but still in the sequence of what's in your remarks column, which is your inventory location data. So it'll do that 6 times. You'll see how it works once we get going. To start off with, in BrickSeller, you first search for the set under the Inventory Search tab. So you select the condition of the set. Obviously you want to search item type sets, and then you put in the set number, in this case 60386, and the search filter, unless you want to add the -1, you want to go with begins with instead of exact match, or contains would work also, but I just go with begins with as your filter type, and then click the search button, and we'll go out and find that set, and then bring it up. And so here's the little switch to the list tab automatically. Should only show the one set unless there's a -1 and a -2 of that set. Get the image of the set, the number, the description, and then there's this part out link. If you were actually going to add this set to your inventory in BrickSeller, you would actually go to the detail page and add it there, or detail tab. But in this case, I'm parting it out, so I want to part out the set. And what that does is it launches a new tab in your browser where you can enter the options of how you want to part out the set using BrickSeller. So the first thing you have to tell it is the number or the quantity of the sets that you're parting out. So we're parting out 4 sets. We select 4. The next thing you do is you can enter the cost. Now this is the total cost of what you paid for all 4 or whatever quantity you're parting out. So in this case, I had a cost of $100.85. And you'll see that I really didn't have to enter it here. I normally enter 0 here because I also do the same thing over on the cart because I use 2 computers. If you only have 1 computer to use, you would actually, what I would recommend is bringing up 2 tabs, go back to the regular, the main BrickSeller tab that was got the main app running, and then click Part Out again, let open up another tab, and basically you'll use 1 tab to go through the number of cups or whatever you want to fill up, and then that'll get you, say, 20 parts in, but then you'd go back to the next one, which is at the beginning of that 20 parts, and that's what you would use to walk away or walk around and walk to your inventory locations, and it'll show you, where each cup needs to be put away. That'll make more sense when we actually get to doing those steps. But in my case, with 2 computers, I bring 1 up here and 1 up in the other computer, so I'm going to shut down this other one. So I guess the reason why I mentioned that is that then you only need to put the cost into the tab that you're actually going to submit to update your inventory. The other one is just merely used for picking the parts out of the bags and filling the cups. So the next thing it asked me for is how I want to break the sets up. Do I want to include the minifig parts, or do I want to part out the minifigs as whole minifigs? In this case, I'm going to do whole minifigs. The next thing you need to tell it is whether or not you want to include instructions. I no longer sell instructions, so I won't check that. And it won't show up in the list to part out. The next thing is, like I mentioned, BrickSeller will allow you to put away parts all in one shot, even for parts that you already don't have in inventory. So like a part color combination that you don't already have a lot for. Otherwise, it assumes, BrickSeller always assumes that you want to consolidate lots. I don't know why you wouldn't want to. BrickSeller also assumes that you want to retain your lots. Why would you want to recreate all that lot information and then lose all that lot history? So as you're walking through, BrickSeller will already default the price based on what you choose here, and your 2 options are last 6 months sales average or current inventory or current items for sale average. I believe almost everybody bases their prices off of last 6 months average because, as everybody knows, the current item for sale average can really get skewed by people who put stuff up for sale, and their technique of reserving it so that it doesn't get sold is to set the price to some outrageous amount. BrickLink has never been able to get people to stop doing that, so in a way it kind of makes that price guide data irrelevant. So then we get on to how you want to order the items or sequence the items that are presented to you to pull out of the boxes that you're parting out. So by default, it does it by straight remarks, which would take you through if your inventory is or inventory warehouse is organized correctly, it would take you through that path one time. But in this case, we're going to use the other option, which is remarks within relative weight. So that will use those weight ranges that I just showed you. So The next two options are for used for when you part out some of those big creative sets, and then let's say you buy many of them, and you want to make it easier to part out, so you only part out, say, the color family of reds. They'll have those, and so you can do it by actually part out by color, and then the last selection is this batch, and that's a concept I don't think we've talked about yet in BrickSeller, where all of your inventory transactions are recorded in a batch, and that's so that you can organize things and give the batch a cost. And so in the case of parting out a set all at one time, you don't need to select the batch, because BrickSeller will, when you submit it, will automatically create a batch with the set name, the number of the quantity of the sets, and this cost associated with it, and then it'll also record all of the items that you put in your inventory as part of that part out, and I'll show you that later at the end of the process. We can talk about batches more, but if you were to, let's say, start a batch with one color out of a set and put that away, then you would select the next color and then select that same batch that was created for you automatically, so that all the transactions from that point on until you're done with that set get into that batch. But like I say, that doesn't need to be used a whole lot unless you're doing by bag, by color, and you want to put those in your inventory in stages of each bag, each color, or whatever. But in this case, we're going to when we submit the part out through BrickSeller, it's going to put all the parts in my store inventory all at the same time, and at that time it'll create a batch. And again, we'll show you that at the end. So after you got all your options for your part out selected, you just click the part out, and it will go out and it will load using the BrickLink API all the data for that set, and kind of link that up with any inventory data you have. I should mention that we'll see if we run into any on this set, but let's say I have an inventory location that already has 5 colors of a specific part. BrickSeller will also default the remarks column to be that inventory location where other colors of that same part. So let's say we've got this the first time that we're adding this particular color to the inventory. It'll default to whatever inventory location has the most number of colors in that same part in that inventory location. So hopefully we'll find one of those in this set. We'll see. So now you'll see that we've brought back all the parts. BrickSeller will show you parts in one inventory location at a time. In this case, there is only one part from this set in this inventory location, but as we go through it, we might see more. And then, so basically, what I'll do is I'll put everything in these, empty out all the bags, and in this case, since I'm going largest to smallest, I'll probably leave all the smaller bags with the smaller parts. I won't empty those out until I absolutely need to, when I get down to the smaller parts. But basically, then from here, I'll go find 8 of this particular part and put it in a cup, and then click next, go to the next until I get 20 cups, and then I'll take that tray of cups over to the cart and use the same interface, which now is still at this spot, whereas this one will have been advanced 20, and I'll walk through 20 there to go through and put them away. It's just the way I do it. There may be other ways that you could think of, but you can use one interface and go back, previous 20 times to get back to the starting point. But why, if you can either bring up two tabs on a single computer or on separate computers doing it the way I do it. So we'll just kind of walk through a few of these just to see if anything interesting comes up. But as you can see, it shows your quantity. That field is, you can override the quantity. That obviously has multiplied it by the number of sets already based on what's in the set. So in this case there's 8, so there's 2 per set. And then it shows you the price, and then in the remarks columns your inventory location. Let's go through it and see if we'll go through a little bit farther and see if. So in this case, as you can see, it brought up 2 parts because the same 2 items are stored in this exact same location. So like I say, it really is going to present them, the parts to you one at a time. But as you can see, it's all the larger parts of the set. Now it's not specifically in the order. It's just anything that has a weight in that top weight range of 3 grams or more. I'm just going to see if there's any find any parts that I don't have. I guess I don't. Oh, there's one. So I don't have any dark turquoise of this part in stock. So obviously I have other colors of this part in this inventory location. So BrickSeller defaulted it to that inventory location. The other thing to note is that it's already retrieved from the price guide data. This is the past 6 months average price using your criteria that you can your price guide criteria that you can filter the price guide data by, like U.S. Region only, that kind of thing. So that's about it for now for here. Next, we'll go over to the cart. We'll enter in the same information. One of the advantages of BrickSeller being a web-based application is that you can open as many browser tabs as you want, and all have the app displayed running in that tab. So you don't have to close down other things to move along. And so let's say you want one tab to do some of your inventory management, another one for parting out, another one for filling orders. That's probably overkill, but it is one of the advantages. The other thing I don't think I mentioned in any of the other videos is that BrickSeller is designed, even as a web application, it's designed with an architecture called SPA or SPA, but it stands for Single Page Application. And as opposed to like the BrickLink website is all individual pages where it's a complete replacement every time you click on something. So if you want to go back to something from a list to something else, it's actually got to make a call to the server, bring back a web page, and so there's wait time and there's a lot of inefficiency on going back and forth to the server. So what BrickSeller does is use this single page application. So if you'll notice, I can go back to the search, back to the list, over to the detail, and so forth. In this case, it's on the orders tab. I don't have any orders up right now, But any one of these will work the same way. On the inventory page here, looks like I looked for something. So you can go between the detail, the list, the search. It still has the search criteria in it. You can go back and forth. And unless there's some action you take to cause it to refresh this, it's all that interaction is just within the browser. So it just makes the application more efficient and operate and function much more like a desktop application. So that's kind of like it's a small another advantage of BrickSeller and its architecture. The other thing with a web-based interface or a web-based application, that's a big advantage, is that there's nothing to install. And then in addition to that, if I push out a new feature, if I fix a bug, it just immediately becomes available to you when the next time you click on that feature. So just a few points as to how BrickSeller was created. But so what I do is that I have a second tab open, and I use this one specifically for parting out sets. So it's already set up with new and a condition and new and sets, and I just need to put in the set number 60386 and begin the with and so basically I'm doing the exact same thing. This one went to the detail tab right away. Again, and that's the typical feature of BrickSeller, and that assumes that anything you search for, you want to just add that particular item. So it's assuming I want to add the set to my inventory. So that's why the add button was down here, and while you're on the detail page for the set. But I'm going to go back to the list and click the part out just like I did on the other computer. I'm going to go same criteria for, and this is the one where it's important for me to put the cost, because this is really the one that I submit. I could have entered a zero cost at the other computer because I don't actually submit that one. We did home minifigs. We left that, and we're going to go remarks within relative weight, and then part out to get the list up on this computer. And then we'll come back to this later. But to start off with, I'll probably fast forward through this, but next I'll open up all these boxes and all the bags and get them organized here on the table, and then I'll probably come back and I'll start showing you how I do the one by one. Okay, now that I've got all the bags emptied out, bag 1 went here, 2 and 3. All the big parts, all the small parts are still in the little bags because I'm going to start off with the larger parts. So I could either just start picking things out, or in some cases I'll go and if there's some really large pieces like there on this particular tray. I'll bring those out first, putting them in cups and setting them aside. Simply because they're so big, they're going to cover up a lot of even bigger pieces. So I think I'll stop there. So now I want to look for 8 of this light bluish gray 2x2x3 brick. Click they're right here. Eight of them. Put that cup in the front of the tray and move on. It's like 8 of the 4x8s. In black. Six by 12s. I already pulled those. 4 white. Bad boys. Can put all these in the same cup because they're going into the same inventory location. If you have more than will fill up one cup, then I just put them in as many cups as it takes. And I might not get through 20 parts, but it's not that crucial. Where are you? Sometimes I can't see them and they're right in front of me. So as you can see, even though we haven't even gotten through everything that's over, or 3 grams or over, I've already cleared out the majority of the larger parts that are, would potentially cover up and make it hard to find other parts. And so this is the main reason why I like to use this technique. Once I get sets, this large, up to a little bit larger, sets that are really small, like maybe those little friend sets down there, I won't use this technique. I'll just go for it with everything and do it in one pass. But like I say, it's worth it. I think, for me at least, to go through the warehouse 6 times doing it this way. You're going to make a lot less stops, obviously, than you would putting the cups away. But anyway, next step is to take these 20 over to the cart. Things here. Normally I don't have this computer mounted this high, but I'm doing it for the video so you can see what's on the screen a little easier. But as you can see now, we're back at the start where we need to be. If we had this on the same computer, I'd bring up the other tab that had the same thing on it, the same part out list, where it's starting with this spot. So basically, from here we just start going from inventory location one by one. So I'm going to go to 08 AF01. It looks like I have a few left. File 9 AB10. So I was wrong. It looks like we didn't have that many parts over 3 ounces, and it'll go into the 20 cups went into the next weight range. I didn't notice that. 09. AE09. AG11. AH02, that's those. AH09. AJ04. I need to separate these at some point. As you can see, that drawer is getting quite full. AL07. SO3. And I think AS11, one more. And that's probably the end of that range. Now it's going to take me around again, starting with the next weight range. I forget exactly what it was, but the next size. So for a G03, I03, double check when there's nothing in there that I got it right. 5 now, ED20. So here's a good example of what I do when it's going to overflow the particular drawer that's in. I could pull them all out, but right now I just set it on top as close to that column as possible. As you can see, I've done that a few times here. And after a few part outs, I'll go through and clean that all up and go through a task, and I'll probably show another video of doing that because it uses a different piece of the BrickSeller software to look up these items and then move them to another inventory location. But for now, to get the part out done, I usually just set them on top. K13, maybe another one. Oops. K13, 05. Fit. As you can see, I had more than one thing in that drawer. So here's one that may overflow it because this is new, a new part I've never had before. So it's telling me to put it in 05 CW 05 down here. 05, nope, but it's in. So I'm going to go ahead and add that and just keep the inventory location as is. If it didn't fit, I could either move it now by entering in a different inventory location and putting it there, or set it on top and then do the cleanup. Do it when I do the cleanup with all the other cups that are on top. CY03. G05 and file 7. And pretty full. HA05. I think one of those was probably new. Yeah. So in this case, you see the inventory location for the dark azure, because another thing I've never had before. Good example where it's telling me to put it where I have most of the other trash can containers. So since there was room, I'll go ahead and leave it there. AL07. Example of it's full. APO2 is my next stop. I'll move it around there, and then we just take the stuff back and start over with the next 20 cups. So I'll probably just fast forward from here until I get to the end, and then I'll show you what happens when you put it away and little details about the batch that's created. Okay, so I've come to the end of the part out, and the only thing that's left is a list of parts and minifigs that I don't have anything and any other colors in stock. So the remarks field is empty because it couldn't find an inventory location to suggest. So we'll just I'll show you how I deal with those. These are pretty big. They fit in the cup. Oh, not really. And the stickers, I'll show you where I normally put those. The white kittens are separate. Then we get to the minifigs. So Brickseller will have a link next to the minifigs where you can open up a new tab and bring up the inventory or the list of parts that make up that minifig, so that it's much easier to bag them and identify the parts that are part of the minifig inventory. So I always click on that and use that to verify the name and or the code. So this is City 1521. So I know I have 4 of them. So I bag those up in this medium-sized bag. So put full up 4 of those. And City 1521. And then we can bag those up. So it looks like it's this head, a blue cap, dark orange legs, and neon yellow vested torso. So only 4 items. Okay, so I just have to repeat that for the other 2 minifigs. We can dismiss that and move on to the next one. I'll fast forward through these. Okay, so now I need to find a home for all these items that are not in my inventory yet. So for these large plates, I'll probably find a spot over here in aisle 9. Oh, this drawer is completely empty, so I'll give that 09 AN07. Then the latest folder that I'm starting to fill up is folder C, and I always prefix those with 99 so it sorts last in the picking order. So we'll put that in folder 99C. And then we've got the little kittens, our white cats. Find a place over here. Looks good to me. 05AU07. And now we can put kitties in there. The only thing left is the minifigs, and I always do those in these bins on top of aisle 9 for something that's not too overcrowded. They're all getting a little full. We'll go with the new bucket that I started over here. 09AQ, this will be 13. I haven't labeled it yet, but and then we'll just go ahead and dump that one in all 3 minifigs in the same location. Okay. So we're at the end of the part out process. I'll put those stickers away in a little bit in the folder, but I just wanted to show you the final step. So at the end of the list, you'll see a save button, but right next to it is a checkbox to say that you're ready to save. And the reason why that's there is that if you happen to put focus on something or no focus at all, it'll default to the save button, and if you happen to hit enter, it'll submit it kind of prematurely. So if you ever do that and this checkbox is not checked, it'll warn you and say you have to indicate that you're ready to save. And so that's how you indicate that you're ready to save it, is check that checkbox, and that's it. So when you click save, it's going to start a long-running process that will give you feedback about every 5 seconds as to the progress of the put away, because it's a long running server task. In some cases, there's a lot of parts to put away. It has to update your inventory on both BrickLink and Brick Owl if you have Brick Owl integration activated, which I do. And so it's just it's a long running process, and rather than submit it and have you just wait forever and thinking that it's not running or it stopped running, that's one of the reasons why it's popped out into its own window or own tab in the browser like this, is so that we can refresh it and it will automatically be refreshed. I think it's every 5 seconds. So we'll save that, and you see it pops up. It says that part out set update. It's already done 4 out of the 113 lots. 11. So you see it'll slowly show you the progress of the updates. Obviously, it's adding any new lots that it needs to both marketplaces, and updating the quantities for the things that you already have in stock. So while that's running, I'll put these away. Folder C. I think I'll probably start another folder pretty soon. So as you can see, it takes a while. It's a lot of API calls to both BrickLink and Brick Owl in this case. And so if you only have a BrickLink store and not a Brick Owl store, it probably runs a little bit faster. It's really just depends on how fast the API calls respond. Okay, that's it. It's 100% complete. So at this point, you can close this tab because you really don't need it anymore. And what I'm going to show you next is in Brickseller. I know we haven't talked about this yet, but there's a Batches tab. And this is where all the inventory batches you can see and actually view them. You can update some of the batch header information if you forgot something or you want to change the description or you want to update the cost. But basically, what you'll see are you'll see there's some different things you can filter on. If you want to go and search for a batch, I think on the bottom of the options tab, there's a way to download your batches in an Excel format if you want to play around with that data at all. But basically, if you don't put any search criteria and you just click search, it's going to give you your batches sorted in descending order based on date created. So you see right at the top, there's this batch that says new set. It's got the set number times 4, the cost that I entered, and then here's the total quantity of items entered into inventory. Here's the total value, and for these kind of batches, the start and end date is kind of meaningless. That's in there for people who want to or buy large used unsorted lots, and they start up, they create a batch for that, and they start putting items away, and it'll basically show them when they started putting items away and when they ended putting items away. But again, in this case, you see it's the same date timestamp because this is done automatically. So one other feature of well, I should say you can click on one of these, and now it'll show you the like I mentioned, you can edit if you want the batch description. You can edit the cost. And then you can see all the inventory transactions that were done as part of that batch. The other thing you can see, and this only makes sense if I go back to the list, and you can see as a chart that I have, or graph, whatever you want to call them. So let's go back a ways to one I did in 2022 for this set. We'll go this set here, and once you bring that up, refresh the charts, click on the chart tab, and what this is the cumulative quantity sold of the parts in that part out, or in that batch. And so it's not specifically those parts, because like all sellers, I simply just add parts to them, so I probably have that a lot of these parts were added to from many other sets. But if this were the only set you had in inventory, this is kind of like the cumulative sell-through of that total quantity. In this case, there were a total of 800, and to date, I've sold 500 of them. You probably will never see a graph where it sells 100% of the parts, and that's the dilemma of all sellers that buy new sets and part them out. You're hoping to obviously sell as many as possible, but you have to realize that there are many parts in there that you have and many other sellers have, and the overall quantities for sale on BrickLink and Brick Owl are so overwhelming. There's 100 years worth of supply. So that's just a little nifty graph that I wanted to show you. Obviously, the further you go back in the list, the more time has elapsed. So pick one here from 2021, and look at its chart, and now you can see there's a lot more months have passed, and so out of that 2,735, we're at 2,291 at the current date. So I think that's it. I think that's all I wanted to show you today. If you have any questions, please post them. Any comments, please post them. I think that the next video that I'll do will probably be on some inventory, just random updates, maybe the way I go about putting away all these overflow cups and reassigning them to other inventory locations. All right, I guess that's it. Thanks for watching.